Welcome to the Guardians of the Vinyl Vault. 4 old friends, 1 sacred vault, and a lineup of artists awaiting judgment.
So welcome to the first ever episode of a new Vinyl Vault show, which we're calling Guardians of the Vault. In this show, one of us has to pick a band or an artist that we would put into the vault and decide, the rest of us get to decide whether we would enter them into the vault either at the platinum level, which is the prestige level, the club lounge level, which is, the okay level, or just frankly ban them for life. With me as usual are the other 3 members of the vault committee. I feel like this should be actually. Joining us from Northern Ireland is Gareth Neal. How are you, Gareth?
Afternoon, Rodney. First time we've ever recorded in the afternoon. And also, this could be a potential YouTube, so no picking your nose. You're just on the camera. Just to warn everybody.
And especially if you do, don't eat it.
Oh. The voice you heard there was another member now of the retired brigade, although I don't think he actually
semi-retired, Rodney.
Semi-retired and looking like John Robb from Louder Than War. It's our own Stephen Moore with a new haircut now.
All will be revealed, Rodney, very, very shortly as to why I'm donning the quiff.
Okay, right. I feel like that. And from coming from just south of me here in Cheshire is our one and only Mr. Richard Irvine. How are you, Richard?
Good afternoon, boys. And isn't it a change? Like you say, the afternoon, we haven't got a beer or a glass of wine. And doesn't seem quite time enough.
You don't know what I might have in my cup. That's only Dad Coke, unfortunately.
Dear, rock and roll. Anyway, right. So, Stephen, as you are guiding us through the vault tonight or today, the whole idea is you're going to pitch an artist. And we have to decide whether we think they are platinum level, club lounge level, or just banned for life.
That's right. And I think the important thing is here, we're talking about the band or artist in the fullness of their career, not just their music, might be their fashion sense, might be their videos, might be whatever.
Right. Well, given my terrible memory, I can't actually remember who you're pitching today. So
don't worry about that.
Well, I think the important
will be revealed.
I think the important thing is we should all be open-minded and be ready to be convinced. Or
you're known for your open-mindedness and neutrality, aren't you?
I was going to say, has he forgotten we're all from Northern Ireland? Open-mindedness is not something that necessarily comes with the territory.
We can guarantee he's not come with any preconceived ideas for the subject of today's.
Anyway,
it all depends whether Stephen's going dancey or indie today.
Tonight, Gareth, I'm undoubtedly going indie. Because the subject of today's Guardians of the Vinyl Vault episode is the Smiths. There is a light that never goes out, and that light is, of course, the Smiths. A 4-piece band of insignificant looks, mediocre physical presence, and distinctively and deliberately sad and jaded. And yet,
even your voice at the moment is sad and jaded.
Deliberately, it's called setting the scene, Gareth.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I'm doing it beautifully, even though
will you let the man pitch in peace?
Sorry.
We're literally about 30 seconds into the first pitch, and there you go.
Did you think you're in the Houses of Parliament or something? Stephen, please proceed.
The thing is, I'm feeling sad and jaded.
So on the subject of sad and jaded, but yet, there come the beacons for the confused, the disappointed, the repossessed, and the miserable. The Smiths, with a bent for the witty, the coy and the cutting, the articulation of a working class laureate, and the musical energy of the mongrel sons of Amadeus and Terry.
Sorry.
No. It's all me. These 4 chaps rose from Rusholme, 4 magnificent ruffians, and brought a dream and desire to me and thousands of other spotty, awkward 80s youths. A rush and a push, and the land is ours. said Morrissey. And to understand the Smiths, you really need to understand the land that the UK was in the 80s. Thatcher's Britain, the 80s greyness, unemployment, the miners' strike, and for those of us living where we lived, the Troubles. And it was also the 80s of the New Romantics with their eyeliner, of Radio 1's Poptastic DJs, and Pete Waterman. And none of those said anything to me about my life. See what I'm doing there? You know, there's lyrical drops left, right, and centre here.
Wild. Well, funny, I haven't got a lyrical drop.
He's in again. He's in again, Rodney.
Sorry, was that just a dramatic pause? Or is there more?
Oh, right.
There's drama in this.
God.
But within 80s Britain, in-slouched Morrissey, Marr, Joyce, and Rourke, with songs about barbarian schoolmasters, the death of the monarchy, unrequited longing, alienation, the need for love, and so much more. Their tunes could power through to ramp up the anger and the disenchantment, if that's a word, to make the longing and the confusion wilder and amplify the loneliness and the longing. 4 albums of magnificence all reached either 1 or 2 in the UK charts. The Smiths, the self-titled debut album, was 51 on the Rolling Stones' best albums of all time. Meat is Murder, the second album, 295 on the same list. The Queen is Dead was number 3 in Q Magazine's albums of the 80s. And Strange Ways, Here We Come was a feature in Gareth's much-loved all-time top 1,000 albums. Only 4, you mutter obsequiously. You want to mutter obsequiously, you can at this point.
Only 4?
Only that was it, only 4. But the Smiths were a different kind of indie band because they released lots and lots of non-album singles, and what magnificent tunes they were. Here are some of their non-album singles. You will know them all. This Charming Man, check out that superb opening riff. Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now, tongue-in-cheek lyrics worthy on their own of Vinyl Vault entry. How Soon Is Now, a glorious orchestra of swirling guitars, and Panic. Give me a more spiteful and catchy chorus than Hang the DJ, hang the DJ, hang the DJ, hang the DJ. Thanks for joining in. Their musical canon was and is glorious, and yet it's so much more. Every one of us who loves the Smiths knows and has a special reaction to the imagery of the whole thing. The Salford Lads Club doorway, gladiola hanging out of the back pocket of some baggy old jeans, a glorious quiff such as my adornment, a pair of National Health specs, or a fey bespectacled chap on a bicycle, perhaps on a hillside, desolate. Can nature make a man of me yet? Live performances were a mark of their brilliance. They brought anger, energy, and exuberance. I was too young and too stuck in Northern Ireland to have actually had the distinct pleasure of seeing them live. But you only had to tune into some fantastic clips from things like The Tube, or in today's terms on YouTube, the Old Grey Whistle Test, or some other media to see some majestic performance in a sweaty hall somewhere in northern England. Even now, the aging Morrissey or Marr in their solo performances shows what great showmen they were and still are. The Smiths gave me, and so many more, fey and feckless youths of the 80s, a reason to cheer and rejoice in a time of grey soulfulness. And for this alone, they deserve a prime position in the vinyl vault. And yet, the elephant in the room, the dark cloud threatening the legacy, certainly for me and for many other Smiths fans, is Morrissey's outpouring in recent years. They are, at the very least, challenging. And to many, with more liberal leanings, and I'd certainly put myself in that category, they can be alarming and deeply troubling. But I'm choosing, and I would implore you to choose the path of disassociation. Let's not think of the Smiths of the 80s as the rather angry and troubled old man that Morrissey has become today. Let's instead think of them in their glorious heyday of the 80s. My friends, I put to you that the Smiths, for their cultural relevance and impact, deserve platinum status.
That's the pitch on the Guardians of the Vault. Stephen Moore going for the Smiths. I gotta say, a band that actually resided not far from where I said today. Now, it's time
Sorry,
for
just
the response.
one question, Rodney. What is Club Lounge access again?
Club Lounge basically means Stephen, tell us.
I suppose it means, yes, very deserving of being in the vault, but perhaps not godlike status. But before you jump to your conclusions,
no, don't worry. I'm not even jumping to Club Lounge.
I think you jumped within 3 words of me opening my mouth earlier. Let's be frank. But I would like to get your guys' opinions, Gareth, Richard, and Rodney, of how important, vital, and glorious the Smiths were.
Right.
Well, like a lot of your speeches, that sounded like a very long 5 minutes to me that we were briefed. But maybe it's because it's just such a flowery, lots of flowery F's and words. I came in.
Words help when you're making a recommendation generally.
Obviously, no surprise to me that you've trying to get your mate Morrissey through the gates. Like you say, in recent years, he has been a little bit controversial, but I think that's more like because he did have this lovely throng of kind of lefty type worshippers at the altar. And they're just a bit surprised that he's maybe a little bit more right than they were ever thought.
He shifted from
left to right.
Yeah, he has indeed.
Well, anyway,
I would implore you to just leave that to one side.
Yes.
That wasn't during the Smiths' time.
Well, I've always said anyway in recent months or years, I'm not really a fan with what he's said in detail, but to me, it doesn't really matter. It's the music that we should be. The music's out there, and therefore you shouldn't really judge somebody on their political views. The music wasn't particularly political, so I just judge it on the music in itself, and I'm ready to debate the Smiths. And we all talking about the Smiths, aren't we? We're not really talking about Morrissey. We have to judge it as the Smiths and not how he ended up, which was a solo artist.
Gareth.
Yeah, like what you said, it was long, flowery language. I tell you, it's not a good start for the Smiths so far after what you've done for them. So even in the tone, you went the same tone as the Smiths. But I have to say,
that was good, though, wasn't it?
It was like listen to flipping Ted Hughes and poetry.
Poetry, yeah.
He likes Ted Hughes, by the way. So that's a possible.
When he asked ChatGPT, must in the air of Ted Hughes, please. Yeah.
And we all know Ted Hughes because he was the one. He was the.
No, if Morrissey had chosen a great literary figure from the past, all the Smiths fans would know he would have chosen Oscar Wilde.
Yes.
And not Keats or Yeats. Keats and Yeats are on your side, but the love of Wilde is on mine.
Rachel should be so proud.
Never taught me, but
she would.
Did she? Oh.
But back to our rules. Our rules are very serious here. We have got to decide what bands can be taken as godlike status, platinum status, whether they get into the vault, and every single person, I think, needs to agree that band is platinum status. If everyone's not agreeing, we can get the Club Lounge, and we can get reject.
That's okay. But we're not going to vote just yet. We're going to debate it, aren't we?
We are going to debate it, and we've got to try to bring in things. Some of the key questions I was thinking to get into that status is achievements, not only inside pop or music, but outside. We need to look at things like their videos. We need to see whether they cracked America, whether they're live, they were able to play live to stadiums.
I wouldn't worry too much about the cracked America, not for this particular episode.
No. Exactly, and I think that's going to be a big factor. So they have to be able to crack the world.
And legacy is also important.
Legacy is
How are
hugely
they viewed?
important.
Yeah, but
How
what
are
is
they viewed
yeah.
now?
But then you've got to define legacy if it's going to get into this platinum status. And we also got to look to see, would you put this music on in a party?
It depends what type of.
I was going to say.
I actually think there are some great songs here that you would put in a party. If you're going to play Duran Duran, Aha, whatever the Cure, then of course you would put on a jingly jangly guitar of Johnny Marr and one of the Smith songs with a good, cracking chorus. I'm not.
Is that when everyone's away getting food?
Vegetarian food.
Yeah, of course. At the moment. If I was to give you a kind of a comparison there, Stephen's put the Smiths at the door of the club. I'm the bouncer. And I'm looking at the casual clothes and the trainers, and I'm just waiting for him to convince me that he should be allowed in. And he's given me good chat on the door. So at the moment, I'm thinking, he's doing enough possibly.
Now, are you suggesting also, Richard, from a fashion point of view, that in the 80s, the look of a Smiths fan had a distinction to it, and perhaps that distinction was, with the benefit of hindsight, quite characteristically 80s.
So can I suggest here that when you look at Platinum, Club Lounge, and Band for Life, right? I think the difference between Club Lounge and Platinum is that Platinum, it had a cultural reference beyond
hence the reason for my question to Richard, the cultural significance of the song.
And I think so. Whatever, you can have a band that'll get in the Club Lounge because they've made great music. But I think what puts you into the godlike status of Platinum
is extra stuff on top.
And it's more the pulp culture and the legacy of the band.
And that's why hence again, I'm coming back because I'd love to know his answer, and especially like to know his answer because he cut my hair in a similar style to this on many occasions.
I don't really remember the Morrissey or the Smiths dress sense that much, really. But I do remember
Stephen. At school, he was dressed like Morrissey. His big long coat. His untucked shirt, and he was doing an airplane dance.
Yeah, I remember Lloyd Cole being more the long coat. Morrissey was just always wearing like baggy shirts, but it's the hair I always remember. Yeah, the James Dean kind of teddy boy hair, and the sideboards and the flowers. Really, when I think of the Smiths, I think of that kind of the dance. And the flowers in the hand. I think that is a lasting image. I know it's something small, but
I think
it makes them different than the crowd. Yeah.
And as we went through the 80s, we had as I touched on in my poetic disposition at the start, we had the eyeliner and the flamboyance of the New Romantics in the early 80s. And then that moved, certainly in indie circles, moved into a slightly less flamboyant look in the mid 80s of the indie kids. But yeah, I think it and if you watch things from the 80s now, you can see that, TV clips and what have you.
Steve, did Smiths fans ever smile?
Jesus, no.
Not deliberately. Maybe they occasionally had a good time.
They were miserable art student trapped in a room.
There's one easy answer to that. They smile when the record comes on, and then they dance with a straight face.
Oh, I like that. That's good. I wish I had consulted with you before.
The DJ's played the song that we've asked for 18 times. It's come on at last.
Can I ask though, Stephen? Were you instantly gripped by them? Because for me, the Smiths were a bit of a slower burn, and I'm actually quite dismayed by that, because I was thinking, when I listen back now, I love the music, right? I couldn't make the link between the bands I was liking at the time and then the Smiths, and it was more actually.
Everything of that genre was a slower burn, because so much at that time depended on being played on Radio 1 and getting on top of the pops. And indie bands, that wasn't happening. And only really even started happening when you got to Blur and Oasis 8, 10, 12 years later. So therefore, it was getting played on the likes of Janice Long, John Peel, etc., maybe getting on the tube and that sort of thing. And it was much, much, much slower burn
Yeah.
to get to that level.
So this is my point. Whenever I was preparing for this here, it was like you don't discover the Smiths. You're sort of lectured on them. So you are. And then
what were you lectured then?
You were, yeah. Then it's the way you're lecturing us now. There's no ups and downs whenever you're talking about in the tone. And like every indie purist you'll meet, they'll tell you that they change music forever, but they can't tell you how.
I can have a go at it.
Okay, let's go.
I think what they did was they brought in subject matter that was never hit songs before. The death of the monarchy, for example, unemployment. They were singing about things quite
They did. Sure,
explicitly.
Sex Pistols talked about. What was their song?
Well, yeah, that's true. Okay,
so therefore, bat that one back.
But they did make it into a bit more of a poppy melodic listen. Smiths, I'll give them that. And I was actually quite interested in I didn't realize those songs that you reeled off that were not on albums but just released as singles. I found that quite interesting.
Mm.
I remember.
Did you mean that, Stephen? Yeah. So those songs you listed off, were not on an album.
Correct. What interesting interesting. No, they weren't on an album. Interesting little sidetrack. When they split up, when Johnny Marr decided he'd had enough, I think there's still 2 or 3 albums left to do on their deal. So I don't think it was Rough Trade, because I think they'd left Rough Trade by then. I think it might have been Warner Brothers. Were left with a situation where the 2 or 3 albums. So they did put out compilation albums after they'd split up, which those songs appeared on. But that always happens anyway when compilation bands get put out. But no, at the time they did, which was very unusual for any artist, particularly
because normally
for an indie artist.
Yeah, normally you're promoting an album.
Yeah,
and just to release it as a single, or was it even an EP, or was it just a single?
You're testing my memory there. I think it was just a single.
And then, of course, you'd probably have a decent B-side to that single as well.
Probably, yeah.
I remember getting Rodney to do a DJ at the Scout Hall, and I actually still remember one of the records. I had this idea of buying, say, a dozen singles, and then people would rent them out. And one of those singles was Ask by the Smiths. And probably that wasn't even on an album, but that was a jolly pop song that I picked particularly because it was something you could dance to at that disco. I thought it was one of those ones where you could sway your arms, and it is quite a happy song.
So for me, I mean, it's about the body of work, right? And I think definitely the Smiths. I don't know what it is about them. Like, so I go back now. I like the songs instantly. There's a poppiness about them. There's a freshness about them. It's not like Radiohead, right? That type of thing, because they don't go for that sort of complexity. But we'll come back to Radiohead in a minute. But it's about that. It's about that. But also it's about what the artists did after they left the band, and all of them went on and did some other stuff, and if you look at the bands that Johnny Marr has appeared in, and the artist had brought him in to work with them, that's got to mean something, because
but that's the personality, not the band. We're arguing to get the band in here.
Yeah, but
I think what it is, it's a mark of how highly thought of
exactly
Johnny Marr was as a musician for later bands. However, you could argue that that's part of the legacy.
So that's like saying Nile Rodgers. Are you going to argue for Chic to get in? Nile Rodgers went on to later.
But it's about the legacy. So I've just pulled up some information here and about the bands that have been influenced by the Smiths. And this is by no means an exclusive or complete list. But people here saying, would we have had would we have had Blur in the same way without the Smiths? And people saying Blur were
Arctic Monkeys. I've had many discussion and debate with people. I live near Sheffield, so. And Arctic Monkeys are absolutely tremendous great, huge band. And I always think they were the chief inheritors of the Smiths' crown. But yeah, there's so many. Even even the likes of Oasis.
I think what caught me
Pulp
with this,
and Stone Roses and Garth's favorite Radiohead.
I think what caught me as somebody who was very much into pop music at the time was I was always intrigued by the lyrics, like Heaven Knows I'm Miserable Now, which I thought was obviously quite ironic. And then also I like things like Girlfriend in a Coma.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice those strange and weird lyrics to me. And I like that. I like that.
There was a tongue-in-cheek element to it. There was an irony about it.
Yeah. You're never quite sure with Morrissey, but I mean,
you were never meant to take it literally.
And what I would say, and this is a very important point as well, in my opinion, is that his voice, it's Morrissey when he's singing. And even though Rick Astley did a tremendous job with the Blossoms just a few years ago at Glastonbury, where I think he resurrected the Smiths fan base a little bit, because he's obviously a huge fan and he sang those songs really well, but you just realize what great songs they were. And to be honest with you, that's why I think, they have a huge legacy, I think.
It's an amalgam of a guy who had complete mastery of his instrument in Johnny Marr, who wasn't afraid to try things that were catchy and poppy on an electric guitar. A lot of his idols were like soul and funk musicians from the 60s and 70s. And talking about funk, Andy Rourke, God bless him, no longer.
Yeah.
His bass playing was absolutely superb. I was listening to it the other day, and you don't tend to often try and focus in on a bass, but some of his bass playing's absolutely fantastically groovy.
But guys, we're talking about the group.
Look at the seriousness on Oil Gareth's face.
No, I am, but
I mean, does Gareth Neil ever smile? Let alone
no. I take this very seriously. That you're the guardian of the vault of an audience out there, and we know the size of our audience. For me, whenever you talk about the lyrics, obviously that's a big for me, because I listen to the lyrics out to the tune. The Smiths at the time growing up, I was definitely a big no-no. Never got it. Never got their music, whatever. I will say, as I grew older, some of those singles that the songs that you mentioned, I did like, but never ever will I be sitting down and listening to a Smiths album. And you've got to look at the wider population as well. Stephen, they didn't crack America. There's a reason for that. You may have all these talented people.
They didn't. Interestingly, they didn't crack America on a minor scale. They did, but not in no means massively.
No.
But historically and legacy wise, after they split up, they appeared on so many film soundtracks. These days, Morrissey's huge in America.
Yeah, but I think you should have brought that in then. What film tracks that they have done, and secondly, they didn't fill stadiums.
What at the time?
Did they? Well, that's what I'm saying. But what stadiums did they fill? Could they go on a stadium tour?
I don't think
you're talking about a time when a lot of the time just stadiums weren't. You're talking about the early mid '80s here. How many acts fill stadiums?
Yeah,
you two probably weren't even filling stadiums, because stadium filling became a thing in the late '80s, early '90s more, didn't they?
Or even later than that.
Were they on Live Aid?
Oh, Morrissey wouldn't do Live Aid. He wouldn't stoop so low.
That's what I'm saying. This is, you're looking for this.
No, that was I think that was very much a political. Is political the right way? He was very deliberately, obsequiously anti certain things that weren't him, and he wouldn't.
Well, you can't imagine Morrissey. By the way, you can't imagine Morrissey standing in a room with all that. Even Paul Weller looked uncomfortable. I think certain people at indie bands didn't think it was cool to collaborate like that.
Yeah.
He actually said that the whole idea was diabolical, and he said that Bob Geldof was a nauseating character, that influenced the band's involvement.
But given you say how he's changed from left to right now, would he do it nowadays?
No,
I don't
probably
know.
not.
I'd probably not, but I think that's by the by. I would love to have seen the image of.
No, because you'd be saying look after our own first. There's people starving in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'd love to have
Yeah.
seen the image of.
No, seriously, you would.
I would love to have seen the image of Morrissey with a cup of tea, passing the time of day with Simon Le Bon. That would have been a very interesting conversation.
Well, actually, you've probably seen that clip. He was on some kind of a program where George Michael sat next to him.
Yeah,
that's
I've
right,
seen that.
yeah.
Yes, I've seen that.
And they chatted quite happily next to each other.
Yeah.
They didn't, neither of them.
Well,
but then again, George Michael
occasionally made very, very positive sounds about the Smiths. George
Yeah.
Michael, rather unusually, you might think, if you only went on his exterior public image. George Michael had a rather eclectic taste in music, didn't he? So, yeah.
So I have just consulted AI here. Okay.
We don't want to do
You're not
that.
allowed
Have you found? Have you found? Are you going to tell us that
you?
you're going to tell us that you found Stephen's speech?
Yeah, exactly. You'll just be reading off the same thing.
Well, I
filed in libraries.
I just thought I'd ask, the web and artificial intelligence, why the Smiths should go into the vinyl vault and be a guardian of the vault. And it says, because their work is considered influential and well crafted, with iconic albums like The Queen is Dead being a great entry point. Going to the vinyl vault would allow them to explore and appreciate the band's unique and compelling sound.
It's not half as good as my speech, though, was it?
No, it's not.
That's quite
not.
dull compared to mine.
However, Gareth, this is something I think you might agree with. 4 albums.
Yeah.
Is that enough?
No. And 1 decade.
Yeah.
I do.
Oh,
think
you're
the
setting the
band
barrier
has
quite
to go
high here.
through-
But
But this is platinum status. This is vinyl vault.
I'm writing these down ready for when he presents the cores.
It's about impact, right? It's about impact, and it's about for me.
So we haven't got that impact yet, apart from they helped out or they influenced the Arctic Monkeys or they influenced Radiohead. That's the only point we're getting here.
What do you expect them to do? World peace?
No, but I'd like to say, what awards did they win? What, that type of,
This is all
They
coming
won.
out later on.
They won Melody Maker's Sideboards of the Year award.
Stephen, have you not put a spreadsheet together with
I should have done these are all going to come out when he talks about John Bon Jovi in years. Come on, what do you do?
Hey, he spilled some stadiums, as John.
Yeah. There's
Are we at the end of our
your pitch?
trying to? I'm not going to. You know where I sit. I suspect I know where Rodney sits. I am quite positive and optimistic about where Richard might go here. I think we all know.
So on the Guardians of the Vault episode of the Vinyl Vault, it's a question now of whether this charming man has convinced us that this light should never go out, or is it heaven knows it's miserable now? Right. This Stephen, this first of all go with you
know where I'm going. I'm going with platinum.
I'm going with platinum as well because I was a bit of a slow conversion to the Smiths.
Platinum's that's a big.
But I actually
and don't forget this is our first podcast. You gotta set the scene. You don't go easy here. There's lots of artists has to try to get
Gareth.
in. That's
Rodney
why Stephen's
always
gone.
follows Stephen. You know
Yeah,
that.
that's right. So you got to stand up for yourself.
It's like it hypnotizes him.
Well, what are you going for, Richard?
Once he starts using his poetry.
I'm going to ask Rodney, how many Smith albums have you in that house there?
I actually have all of them on CD.
Aha.
And Stephen, how many do you have?
I don't have any because I don't own records.
Right, let me be clear here. I'm going for Club Lounge. I'm not going for Platinum. I'm going for Club Lounge because I feel that's worthy of their material and their legacy. It's certainly not Band for Life, but I'm going for Club Lounge. So not something.
So we can suggest they're in, and Gareth, we can also suggest whoever way you vote's completely irrelevant. Aha. Well, but
Mine-
for completeness' sake, Gareth, what do you
mine
want?
is a complete rejection, and I think Rodney is putting it in because it's the first time up, and he's just being nice.
No, listen, Rodney.
You're going, sorry, can I just clarify? You're going banned for life.
No, I think
is.
ban for life
It
is harsh. It is such a harsh. But given there's no, I'm put it this way, I'm rejecting the applications.
Sorry,
Okay.
mate. Too casual. Yeah.
As we're finding our fate this time round, I think we can conclude, therefore, that the Smiths are in the
I
vinyl
think-
vault. The Guardians have spoken. However, their
Yes.
level of in, maybe Gareth,
Club Lounge.
how he's going to phrase this will be absolutely ridiculous, won't it? But Gareth can put it up on our Blue Sky page as to what level of membership they're in.
You see, it's all very well you saying you're both going in at platinum, but my Club Lounge and Gareth's Bard for Life, should that really make it automatic for platinum? I think that actually brings it down.
No, that's
to
what I'm saying.
Right,
That's what I'm saying. But let's perhaps, we're saying they're in, but let's
The level.
what the level Blue Sky can decide. You can imagine Gareth. You can imagine Gareth's entry into Blue Sky. The Smiths are crap, but I'm being forced to make this post.
No bias.
Right, so people of the world, listeners of the world, it's down to you now. Do you agree with Gareth and you think the Smiths should be banned for life? Are you with Richard? Not necessarily sitting on the fence, but he's happy enough, but he just isn't going to go full in. Or are you with me and Stephen? And I am apparently open to a lot of ridicule, but are we in the platinum era?
I'm sure we dance you used to do in the school.
I know.
disco to the
I'd
Smiths.
have to stand up, and then you'd miss.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
It's all, you know,
Remember, you used to do the one. You used to do the one foot in front of the other type thing. Do you remember you used to do?
Yeah.
That was more for big rock sounds.
It looks like he looks like Bert and Ernie that's been put into puppet format there, so he has.
I know.
He does.
Anyway, you've been listening to the very first episode of a new show on the Vinyl Vault, The Guardians of the Vault. Stephen has successfully put the Smiths into the vault. You can decide whether it's Club Lounge or it's Platinum. Vote now. Boys, really good to see you again. I have missed it. I've missed the banter, and we'll be back with another episode of Guardians of the Vault very soon.